Hi everybody and welcome back to Sewing Sunday. Today I'm going to be making a book strap and I'm going to make it for a hardcover book. I have a lot of these and I don't want to make it for the paperbacks because I'm afraid the elastic of the band that I'm going to be using might end up tearing the paperback book. So I'm going to be using one of these elastics. They're just hair ties and I've got a million of them and I hardly ever use them anymore because they kind of pull my hair out. And then I picked out some different ribbon. So I've got the big chevron and the little red with polka dots and the purple with polka dots. And then I have a bunch of buttons. So I've got some solid colored ones and some purple, and I've got some with designs and some with polka dots and some other chevron and more polka dots and other designs. So I'm going to pick which button I want to use, but they're all fairly large buttons. And to see which one of these it'll work best with. I don't know which one I want to use, but I was thinking about these ribbon and I think this ribbon might be a bit too big. That when I use the elastic and it pulls on it, it may make it scrunch all together and make a lump in it, and I don't really want to do that. And then the red one I think is too skinny for these big buttons. It'll look kind of weird and lopsided. So I've decided to go with the purple one with the polka dots. So now I just have to decide what button, what strap will go with this. I've made my choice. It's going to be pink and lots of polka dots. This ribbon is going to be connected to the elastic, and then it's also going to be on the other end connected to the button. And then all you have to do is hook the elastic into the button to close it, and it'll be a bookmark or a book closer. Let's make a bobbin. I'm not going to need much for the project, so we'll cut it here. Let's use a fat part of the book so it doesn't end up getting too small or too tight. Let's cut it to about here and we'll save ourselves some room with the sewing. Button hem and elastic hem. And they'll meet somewhere in the middle. I'm going to loop this through here and sew, I think, an X and a square around it just to give it good strength. And then I'll be halfway done. I'm going to burn both edges to make sure they don't unravel. About an inch ought to do it. It's not exactly beautiful, but I think it's going to work. Let's look at the book again. We want it to be a little bit tight, but not very tight. All right, I'm going to add just another little bit. And then I'll sew this shut and then put the button in there. And now I'm going to sew the button on by hand. I sewed the button on. And now it's done. I would like to make one with fabric instead of the ribbon, so I think I'm going to do that next. I've decided I'm going to make a strap for my iPad because the little clasp thing broke off and it doesn't actually shut all the way, so I'm going to either pick this one or that fabric. I don't know, that fabric might be too big of a pattern. I don't care. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to do a double button width. And that way I'll have plenty of room for the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then it won't be too thin for the button or too thick for the button. And the button is about 1 3/4, almost 2 inches really. So if we do 3.5, that should work out nice. 3.5. And my length is just going to be 2 times the width of the iPad. I'll sew the ends first so that they're nice and clean, and then go ahead and do the rest of it. So I got to get out my iron. There it is. So I did fold this over and not hem it. I folded this over and then ironed it. Ironed the edge, ironed the center. I have no idea if any of this is useful or not. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the edge here and sew the edge here, and then put in the little elastic, which I chose this color because it matches nice. I think that's going to be good. It'll end up going like this. Looks good. So let's do both sides first. And the other side. Well, that looks a little messy. That looks good. So we'll make that be the underneath part. I think I'll just go across. Oh, I don't know. Maybe let's do the X again. Why not? Got plenty of bobbin. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Let's figure out the button situation now. I'll just do the square here to reinforce it and then put the button on. And I'll do that by hand. Now I'll sew the button right there, because those polka dots match that blue color. I think it'll be perfect. I ended up using some embroidery thread because I didn't think this thread was going to be very strong, no matter how many times I wrapped it around. So here we go. Ta-da! Look at that! Now it's not going to just flop open. I really like this. Am I going to make a third one? I've decided to make another one, and this one's going to be for my recipe notebook. The cover used to look like that. Now it looks like this. So let's see if we can make a nice recipe card strap. This is going to be my ribbon, nice and cute. This is going to be my button. Since this is a little bit brown, well, obviously it's very brown, but since there's a little bit of brown showing, this button actually has a little bit of brown in it. A little bit of brown. And this button doesn't have actual buttonholes, it's just lots of holes in it. So I'm going to use my embroidery thread. I think they call it floss. And the button is pink, this is basically pink, and then this is pink. So I think I'm going to pull out some pink. I grabbed one of my smaller hair ties. It's not quite as thick as the other ones. And this embroidery floss comes with 6 strands. So I'm going to use 4 for the button and 2. I'm going to make a bow, and I'm going to use 2 strands to sew the bow in place. Here's 3 brown ones. I know there's a trick to it. I've done it before, but I can't remember what in the world it was. But anyway, I'm going to use this thread to tie, or not tie, but to sew it so that it will actually stay straight and look like something. It's a crooked mess. I made a little star and then did a little French knot right in the middle. So it looks a little bit like a flower. Now let's put the button on. Should go right about there. Okay, let's see how it works. Oop. And there it is, number 3. Okay, so today we got finished with 3 of them. We've got the book strap. We've got the iPad strap and the recipe book strap. And I think this one's my favorite. Even though I didn't use the sewing machine, I was still sewing. Happy Sunday.